How's it going, everyone? In this video, I have something very important to talk. And since nowadays it's the age when you need a disclaimer before almost anything you say on YouTube, I'm gonna start the video by saying that this video is not intended to dismiss any perspective. I'm gonna bring my own perspective, which is as an average looking man with Asperger's, and if you can relate to this, then feel free to watch the video and comment if you have anything to say. But in no way am I trying to say that women don't have problems and that other people's problems are less important than mine. So having that said, the problem that average looking men with autism face today, well, there's a lot of them, really. But when it comes to dating especially, there's a lot to say here. Because many of us, we know that it's a disadvantage. We know that comparing you as someone with autism and the same person, like the same looks, but you don't have autism, you don't have Asperger's. And here I'm talking about high functioning where your intelligence is normal. You are not intellectually disabled, but you are socially disabled, which is obviously in very rough terms, but this is Asperger's that I'm talking about, or high functioning autism. And obviously we know that being in a situation where you can't understand social cues, where you have trouble relating to other people, this is going to affect not just friendships, but also your dating life as well. And how is that going to happen? I myself, as an average looking man with Asperger's, I'm going to have to say that if you live in the West, things are absolutely brutal. I'm not saying that anyone is like completely over for them or anything like that. If you're an ugly guy with Asperger's, I could say that confidently, but I mean, almost, because people really understand what does it mean when you say it's over, really. Like, if you have a situation where you become famous for some reason, there's always a group of people, and there's one amongst the millions who get famous, and then you have a woman who's with you, and obviously that doesn't mean you get treated well. That doesn't mean, like, many people look at it and they say, well, this guy, he's with someone, so it's not over. And I'm not here to even define that. Like, it's up to you to decide in the first place whether it's over or not for you. Really, I'm just gonna say exactly in actual results in terms of what kind of experiences you will have, how those experiences look like, how they look like for me, and how they look like for the average man with Asperger's in today's Western societies, Western Europe, North America. And you listen to this and you tell yourself whether you think this means it's good or bad. I'm going to leave the judgment for you. So, long story short, I don't want to spoil it, but things are looking really dark. And if my channel was made to just give false hope, then I wouldn't have a lot to say here. I probably wouldn't be able to talk about this at all, because it's really brutal. And if you look at studies as well, studies show that people with Asperger's, people with autism in general, are significantly less likely, especially men, they're less likely to be in a relationship pretty late on in life. Like, their rates of virginity are pretty high, even later in life. And my experience is that you might have some matches. You might have, if you use some fringe dating apps, depending on what the amount of time you spend on there, you might have like one or two women who agree to go on a date and then they ghost on you or something like that. You might have a woman who she almost showed up to the date but just didn't quite make it. You know what I mean? You might have something like that. But realistically, are you really happy with that? Like, you're going to have some experience. You're going to get to the point where you're 25 And I'm going to take 25 as an important threshold for when you should really think about your life so far and understand that the patterns you notice in your life so far will probably remain. Most of them, the patterns that you have noticed. So you're going to be like 25 and you're going to look back at 25 and say, okay, I'm an average looking man with Asperger's, 25 years old. So what was my life so far? Okay, my life with women was like, yeah, I had some experience. I had like a few conversations on fringe dating apps. I had some fake profiles. I had some unwanted guys matching with me, thinking that I'm gay or something, or hoping for something. Like some of those fringe applications, they don't filter very well, so you're gonna end up with like gay guys matching on you. Tinder doesn't really do that, but those ones that are more fringe, they tend to, like the ones with less users, they tend to do that. So now, like, really, you're still a virgin, of course. You're still, maybe in the best case, by 25, you've been on one date. You've been on 2 dates. You've been on, you've been on a date before, or you've had some date attempts. You've had some near date situations. And I'm sure there's a lot that you could talk about, just like there's a lot that I've been talking about in terms of what those situations were like and what the treatments that you got in those situations was like. But realistically, what do you have really? Like, you're gonna need to get used to being with yourself, because chances are that's how it's gonna stay for a long time at least. Now, I did say that a lot of the patterns will stay the same. Some things will change. So if you get, and this is actually, you don't even need to be autistic. Most men are in this situation where I myself, I realize that if a woman will ever want me, that's not going to be without conditions. When I say conditions, I'm not talking about conditions like, oh, I'm demanding something from her, or like something, or she's demanding something from me, like or like I want unconditional love or something. I'm not saying that. I'm saying conditions as in having money, having a house, things like that. None of that, as in, we just meet on a dating app, or we meet somewhere and we date, and I'm not like providing for her. I'm not necessarily, there's no incentive other than just being with me, why she is with me. Like that's not going to happen for most men. Most men later on in life, they might end up with, some attention from women. They might end up with some results. And I still have the studies that I showed in a video that is not online anymore for reasons that there's no point in even going back to that. And I'll put the studies. This is just a friendly reminder, guys, that this is how things are looking for most men. Most men, it's just not going to happen naturally. For most men, it's like when you're in your 30s or your late 20s, and that attraction will come in a specific context, in terms of there's a house in the picture. There's a salary, a nice salary in the picture. There's the discussion of commitment in the picture. There's more things in the picture, and she comes into your life as part of this larger context, not just for you yourself, but it's all like, yeah, maybe you can hope you're not going to get the worst in terms of morals. You're not going to get like the most evil gold digger, but even the most honest and decent woman, she won't just want you without this context. She will only want you within this framework and within this context of you, marrying her maybe, and providing for her. There's a house in the picture, like I said, so she's gonna move in with you. Maybe you're gonna pay for her tuition or whatever debt that she has to pay. You're gonna maybe buy her a car, or you already have an expensive car yourself, and she's gonna talk about it, and most people will talk about it like it's just normal life, like it's how it happens. But you cannot ignore the context, because if you assume that the woman will want to be with you without this context, take the house out of the picture, take the car out of the picture, and she just it won't be there anymore. It just won't be there anymore. And that's when you realize that it's not what I used to think it is. So I'm not saying, like, am I saying now go your own way or pretend to go your own way and just stop caring? Well, at some point you will have no choice but to really soften the way, how much you try. At some point you'll stop trying so much, and you're going to go back to the things that you were doing before your self-improvement phase. If you went through that phase in the first place, you're going to go back to video games. You're going to go back to a lot of that. It's just how it is, realistically. Really, for a lot of us, the interactions we have, like, you're going to remember that anime girl from the game you played yesterday, and she will be a more vivid memory in your mind than any other woman really has ever been and will ever be. Like, if you will imagine, and you will have a more vivid mental image and memory of an anime girl than a real woman. When you think of a woman, you're gonna see that anime girl that you saw yesterday, because you know what happens at some point when women are so apathetic to you, when you don't even remember the last time a woman has smiled sincerely towards you. At some point you just think to yourself that, well, it's not. I guess I don't really like women as much anymore. Not that you hate them or something, but in terms of being attracted to them, you definitely don't look at women you see on the street and feel attracted, even if she is like really good looking. Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She could be good looking, but if she treats you like crap, and if she doesn't even want to look at you, then you won't even have that naivety. You need to get in a situation where there's a conversation that you're having. You need to get in a situation where you're talking to her and she's friendly, at least for some part of the interaction, for you to even have a crush. So, you probably relate, if you're in your mid-20s and you have Asperger's, you probably relate as a man. When was the last time you had a crush? For me, it was, I don't even remember, it was like middle school or something. Because when you don't even get that friendliness, you don't even have a friendly interaction with her where she's like smiling at you and she is, you don't even get that. So you don't even have crushes anymore, because you cannot have a crush even if she's good looking. You could look at a woman on the street and just admire her for a few seconds, but you won't feel like you actually have a crush for a woman, even if let's say she's your coworker or something, simply because you saw her and she's cute. If she doesn't even want to like look at you or so, you say hello and she doesn't even respond, or it's just like hello and that's it. And with jobs, be very careful. Like with jobs, you cannot do you cannot make any effort to get close to a woman at work, really. People nowadays are very crazy with the wokeness, and you might get accused even if you go to a woman, and let's say every time before you leave, every time before you go home, you drop by to the office and you tell her, have a nice day or something, or every morning you try to make conversation with her, yeah and no, really. Because if that woman feels uncomfortable and she feels that this guy, he's trying something, he's trying to get closer to me and I don't like that, she can go and report you. She can make a complaint, and you could get fired, or you could, and even you know how a false accusation is dealt with. A false accusation, what happens is that you basically get sent home when you get falsely accused of something. The priority is she needs to be protected from you, so you get sent home, and the investigation starts. The authorities get involved and they talk with her and they ask her questions about the nature of the allegation. And if she says yes, this is harassment, I've been harassed, then uh, they will open a case, and after that you will have to defend yourself. You'll have to there will still be a case open in your name, and if you're unlucky you might actually get arrested. Like, you might get arrested, and then after, maybe you're not going to jail, but you will get arrested, and you will have to answer questions. You will be investigated, and there will be, maybe you'll need a lawyer depending on how bad it is. That's like the worst case scenario, and you could even be found guilty. Or you could just be, what's more likely is that you will, technically you will be guilty until proven innocent. So there will be like, you were reported, there's a suspicion that or like, as from what they know, you were reported that this guy harassed a woman. So, put him in handcuffs, bring him to the station, and sit him down, and maybe you go for a lawyer. I didn't mean to say liar. That's an accident, but I guess it's a funny one, isn't it? Maybe you afford a lawyer, and from that point, I don't have any experience from that point. Like, when it happened to me, the woman just didn't want to speak to the investigators, so they closed the case, and I was only given details about what happened after they already had closed the case. And, like, trust me, guys, you're gonna think like, oh, you probably did something. I just bumped elbows on the hallway. Bumping elbows on the hallway. If she says, oh, he brushed against me on purpose, you could have been like watching over a kid that you had to, supervise, and it doesn't matter. That's how, to the point where I remember the college, like the dean from the college, or not the dean, but the biggest guy in the department where I was. He said that he would walk on the hallways with his hands up, so he doesn't get accused of something. And it definitely, let's just say, from the looks of it, it looked like he had a reason to actually do that, and he wasn't just crazy, if you know what I mean. So, coming back with autism, we've already covered enough, said that a lot of men will deal with this. A lot of men will have a lot of like bad experiences, and just no experience at all. Like, just maybe 1 or 2 days by 25, and then later on, maybe if you manage to be a provider or something, that's it. How much worse does it get with having Asperger's, though, really? Like, how much worse is it actually? And my answer for this is that it's actually quite bad, because you are much more likely to just not have friends in the first place if you have Asperger's, and you are much more likely to, like, you'll be at the bottom of the guys within your looks range, that's for sure. You will be at the bottom. And it is sad, but that's the reality, that there are guys who manage to get into a relationship with simping and with neurotypicality. Neurotypicality plus simping. And I'll make a future video about how men actually get into relationship nowadays. And, to make the long story short, like, I'm still gonna speak for another few minutes. I need to get 25 minutes in the video. But I'm gonna tell you that with many guys, the way they get in relationships, it's like, if they weren't neurotypical, they wouldn't stand a chance. Because that's really, they have to be perfect socially, or they have to be extroverted, they have to be, and simping is a big part of it. So you might hear people telling you that you have to act like you are good looking, you have to act like a player. But in reality, many women, if they even give you a chance, they'll give you a chance as a shy, provider, as an emotional provider, maybe not financial, but emotional provider. So texting her every morning and asking her how she is every morning and things like that, that's actually an expectations in many cases. And if you don't have the neurotypicality, like what does it look like when it's literally like you're not the same. It's like a signature that you're born with, a birthmark, and you don't have that birthmark, and you don't recognize that birthmark is neurotypicality. And you don't have that, meaning that you don't fit in. You don't understand people's social cues. You don't understand people's faces. People say jokes and you take it literally. You don't understand that it was a joke, or you simply have nothing to relate to. You have nothing to say, or obviously a combination of these. And it's also the way you look in general. Like, people look at you from the distance and you look like you're lost, or you look like you have that weird look, like a weird look on your face. You're like staring into the void, and all of these things add up, because people will notice that there's something different about you, and they will exclude you. And once that has happened, it's really hard to make an exception for your dating life, when even with friends it's going to be so hard. Like I said, especially in Western countries, it is hard. You probably will have more success in the East. If you can geomax, that's another question. Can you really? Like, to be perfectly honest, there are guys who wouldn't even be able to go on an airplane. Like, there are guys with Asperger's who you would probably get lost in the airport at some point. Like, if you especially like going to Southeast Asia is no easy deal, and then you don't speak the language, and you can barely leave your house. Like, you need to be fair with yourself and admit, can I even really travel with an airplane on my own? Like, can I even do that without getting lost or without losing documents? Or because you have people who, within the small range of things that you're interested in, you might be even a little genius, or at least smart or normal intelligence, but then everything else is like a disability. Your personal finances, you get lost in situations, like I said, where there's a lot of people, like in an airport, for example. So it might not be the best idea, like having like a geomaxing plan. Well, that might not be possible. And if you stay in your country, unless you actually came from that country, if you came from let's say I came from Romania, so going back to Romania would be a choice for me, which I am exploring, and I am thinking, and I will talk about this more in a different video. But I will try to apply to university there, and if they allow me, I would have to apply as a foreigner, because I finished high school in Canada. So I still have to, even though I'm a Romanian citizen, I'd have to apply as a foreigner. But there's limited seats for foreigners, and it's not very likely that I'll be accepted. And if I am, then I'll be living in Romania. This time next year I'll be there. But it remains to be seen. It's a really hard thing to guarantee. So yeah, when you have Asperger's and you get overstimulated by social interactions, and you don't fit in, you don't know what to say, you say things that don't much. It's about reading the room. Like, you can't read the room, you say things that don't match the direction of the conversation. And even like myself, I'm thinking many times, I hear my coworkers talking about things, and there's just nothing I can say to that. Really, there's nothing I can say to discounts at the local liquor store. There's nothing I can. I have nothing to say about that. I have nothing to say about whatever, just random gossiping about what this guy did, what that guy did. I'm just sitting there and listening, and I'm not, this guy gossiping about how people at his last workplace where everybody was sleeping with each other and the shifts were brutal. Yeah, like, you're gonna a brutal experience would be just seeing the lives. Like, people will ask you questions, people will see you at work, and they'll ask you, like, what are you doing this weekend? And they're all doing stuff, and the women, they're like, seeing good looking guys or whatever, they're like dating, or they're going to have a spa with their, like, girls friends out or something. And what do? You record videos for your channel on YouTube or something like that. So that's also a brutal thing. But yeah, as bad as it seems, if you are the kind of person who you would think that, well, it's enough if I have one date by 25, or if I manage to get one girlfriend in my life, I'm happy. Then you might have this at some point, but things just aren't looking that great. And especially as people are becoming more and more isolated, you won't get picked up by the waves. You're not gonna get picked up by people's willingness to socialize. You're on your own, and it's really tough. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to this. I sure can. It's mostly from my experience, what I've been telling you guys so far. And I'm thinking for the next video, I'll talk about how men actually get in relationships in 2024. Like, what are the methods of like, the men who actually get in relationships, how they do it, what are different types of methods that men get in relationships, and different types of men based on this. And until then, see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.